shared base in the Bahama Islands and were active for just really a few years. But they were so effective and they were so different from prior pirates and the pirates that have come since that they captivated the popular imagination at the time and really never let it go. And so that pirate group, which I would say is distinct from other types of pirates, that really gets going in 1714, 1715. We can talk about how in the aftermath of the Great Big Colonial War. And it was keying off a sort of early inspirational figure named Henry Avery, who had his big pirate exploits were in 1696, 1697. And I'd say he's the individual and figure that sort of creates the proof of concept and the role model for this next generation of pirates that kind of burst into fruition and altered the world and give us this sort of culture of the pirate anti-hero.
What was Henry Avery's background? Where was he from?
So Henry Avery was English, and he served in the Royal Navy and was in the late 1690s an officer on a ship that had been commissioned. It was a new kind of a business deal between some very powerful people in England and the Spanish government during a time of peace to create a trade expedition that could make a whole pile of money because it would be the first English trade connected with Spain and be conducted under the King of Spain's rule. And anyway, he was a legitimate officer in this fleet of vessels, and then the owners basically screwed him and his crew over, and we're going to kind of leave them to become sort of prisoners of the Spanish and not pay them. And he led a mutiny because they had been so cheated. Yeah, I mean, he seized the vessel that he was on in the harbor in Spain and escaped onto the guns of a fort and then sailed out of Spain and around the whole of Africa and started this crazy and kind of terrifying phase of shipping coming out of the Red Sea. And his most famous capture that vaulted into mythology was capturing the treasure ship that belonged to the Grand Mogul of India, essentially the ruler of India at the time. His vessel that was coming from the pilgrimage to Mecca, loaded all kinds of treasures and stuff, and some of the ruler's relatives. And Avery and his crew captured this vessel and piled the treasure. Just staggering sums, kings, an empire, imperial fortune. And what made him sort of a mythological figure is he kind of got away with it. Right? They took this treasure and it's been kind of scattered. And there was an all-points gold platform because the most powerful forces in England, those powerful
Look, Curry, can you want to play one-on-one? Look, Curry, 1v1? Look, Curry, 2v2? Look, Curry, 1v5? God damn.
Sending troops
Look, Curry.
English diplomats in India and the trading ports and cut off all trade. So this is messed up global trade. It's messed up England's most important trade partnership. So Henry Avery is the subject of the world's first global manhunt. The entire English Empire, the Grand Mogul of India, capture this guy, Daniel Glass, everyone's trying to find him. And he is skedaddled out of the Red Sea. He goes all the way to the last place he thinks we're looking for him, which happens to be
not even a competition.
Why do you think people would look for him there? Is this out by where,
it's weird. He's out in the Caribbean right off the coast of Florida, half a world away from where everyone's really expecting him to be. And he goes there and shows up under the force, and then he goes to Nassau and Bahamas, or this impoverished backwater.
So I got this
it's a rich place. It's barely surviving. Later, it gets sacked in various wars. It's a third-rate colony, very weak and fragile. And English holdovers is pretty weak too. And the governor is a weak man, at least morally. Henry Avery claiming to be a man named Captain Bridgman and claiming to have found this vessel he's sailing on out in the sea. Essentially says, hey, I've got a whole bunch of ivory tusks and rare gold and Arab coins and stuff. I'll give you a chunk of it, and I'll throw in the ship if you fence my goods and sell me some sloops, some escape vessels. And wait, nudge, nudge. The governor essentially does that. So at the time when there's this global manhunt for Henry Avery, led by London and the Court of St. James, one of England's own governors is buying the goods and selling him as getaway vehicles. Exactly, that's maybe you got it. And so
they're not taking care of it.
You got it. They sold the Grand Mogul's vessel to the governor, who ended up leaving it on the shores of what's now Paradise Island in the Bahamas, what was at Hog Island. And they also get out on small vessels. They go up the East Coast, some of them end up in Philly, some of them end up in Rhode Island briefly, but they've also be circling back to make a backstage return to England. Everyone's looking for them over in the Red Sea. They've snuck all the way around and landed in Ireland and then transferred over Ireland or even back to England. Henry Avery's last seen the whole big pile of treasure and another man's wife at a crossroads in Ireland, apparently bound towards the West Country, where he's from, and poof, he disappears. Stop that. And it starts this mythology, though. Here's like Robin Hood, right? A guy who stood up for his crew members. He's like, enough's enough, we're tired of being told. We're going to seize this vessel, seizes an incredible amount of treasure, and disappears. And then rumors know about what happened to the people speculate that it becomes this pop culture phenomenon in the 1690s and early 1700s, where all of the elements of entertainment culture of the era are all featuring the Henry Avery story. There are plays about him on Drury Lane, there's sonnets written about him, histories of the pirate Henry Avery. And in all of these, they have these wild fantasies about where he is based on his treasure. But many of them circulate around, he's gone to Madagascar, and there he's built a pirate kingdom, with streets paved with gold, and everything's absolutely wonderful. Like Bilbo's, what's that bird? The Candy Mountains, the sort of fantasy land that the host was saying about. Yeah, well, this is like the sailors, this is like the fantasy Nirvana place, the kingdom of of the
Yeah.
pirates where everything's
Well,
wonderful.
don't you think that
everyone's treasure
exploited
is
it
there.
and made it bigger?
And so this
Well,
is the
yeah.
story that's percolating
And
around.
anything that
when
becomes put on
the
the
young,
news,
young
you can
people,
Like they
young
say, if
sailors
Malcolm
who
and Martin didn't say anything, then things would have been a whole lot better.
insurrection and pirate republic in the Bahama
I
Islands
wonder if
in the
that's true.
1710s.
That's wild though. That I didn't expect the story to go to. He decides to go all the way back where he came from and pays it to enemy because then you see all these other guys who are in the Bahamas, and we're gonna talk about them and who comes up and kind of takes control. But you know, I think a floating question is obviously people look at pirates and they think, okay, criminal, outlaw, pretty obvious. But what sense of people was Henry Avery recruiting to be on his crew? Was he just going to the local jail and guys actually didn't get hanged and let out and said, all right, join me? Or was he turning people who were law-abiding citizens and paying them enough money that suddenly they become criminals? Like, what was it mixed?
In Avery's case, it was just circumstance. Like, he was planning on going to piracy. He and his crew are being screwed over by the ship owners, and so they decide to mutiny. And so his crew is whoever was willing to join the mutiny. So it's a whole bunch of sailors who happen to be on the same expedition. We're all hired by the same, employers, and they're getting screwed over and all that stuff. So he ends up with who he ends up with. And from there on, because he made this incredible score of like the greatest pile of treasure you could possibly imagine, it's all productions from there. But he's shedding people as he's trying to escape the manhunt. And
Now, when you say shedding people,
well,
like
yes,
throwing
no indication of that. Let's say when they get to the Bahamas, and they sell the Grand Local ship to the governor, the party breaks up, right? Some of them go in one small boat and sail up to Philadelphia, and then a few weeks later another group of them go. The group breaks up and starts scattering to go find their own path with their own shares of the treasure. And so when Avery's last, he's sailing with a half dozen people when he arrives in Ireland, and he quickly breaks company with them. And as I said in his last scene, he's with this one of the other crewmen's wife and his head crossroads. So it's not just two people. She's later seen actually without him by another witness who shows up at a trial and is acting very sus. Where's Avery? I don't know. I haven't seen him lately. So
How would they know?
Just himself.
You got cameras on the bitch? This is 1700.
The question is how the pirates recruit.
Often
The Golden Age pirates
some
have a choice
island.
of how to go about recruiting.
What
Sometimes
island?
they're ending up by happenstance in piracy. Some of them did exactly what Avery did. They mutinied against some rescue missions on their vessel, seized their vessel. Others, decided to, this sucks. We're gonna go, enter piracy by stealing some small vessel at anchor, or some of them started with these sort of super ocean-going canoes called periaguas. They were like giant dugout canoes with sails, and you could see 7, 8, 10 men on one of these. You could have several of them. That was usually the starter pack for a lot of pirates. Not only were they easy to acquire, but remember the stage of sail. The vessels you're pursuing to make your first scores and build your way up as a pirate are constrained when they try to sail into the wind. Right? If you're a sailing vessel, you sail into the wind's going to be on both sides of the sail. It's going to flap on your flag. You're going to be going nowhere. The sailing vessel has to go off the wind, to point off the wind at some angle to catch the wind and start sailing. And square rig vessels, which many of the big ocean-going ships of that era were tearing in to sail way off the wind. 45, 50, 60 degrees off the wind. And so it had zigzag tapping back and forth if they were trying to go in the direction of the wind. Incredibly inefficient. The wind's really blowing, the waves and the wind are hitting the hull and pushing you further off. To the effect that in a lot of conditions, ocean-going ships could make no progress whatsoever into the wind. And then they're compelled to sail in certain directions. The periaguas could paddle straight into the wind super fast. They could go over reefs and things that the other vessels couldn't. So over reefs. Throughout the Bahamas, the Caribbean, you'd have coral reefs that are 4 or 5 feet under the water, 3 feet under the water.
And this could break through?
They could go right into their canoes. They draw very little water whatsoever. Whereas, say, a Royal Navy frigate will draw 10, 12 feet. So they're good for pursuing and capturing a vessel in certain conditions. But then to escape, you can take your periaguas and float right over all these barriers that your pursuer, Royal Navy warship, for instance, can't follow you. It has to go the long way around. By the time they do it, you disappear. So they're very agile vessels. So a lot of pirates would start with those. But your question as to how they recruit, sometimes your initial group would be, hey, this is a drag. Let's go out and make money. A better way. We're all starting here. An important thing to understand about why there was this Golden Age pirate outbreak is it followed the conclusion of the Colonial War, the War of the Spanish Succession. It's called.
Yes, and you please explain this. This was
and this is important answering the question we had. So the War of Spanish Succession ends in 1714. As I said, the Golden Age piracy starts in 1715.
Guys, if you're still watching this video and you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, please take 2 seconds and go hit it right now. Thank you.
That's not a coincidence. There was a big colonial war, England versus France and Spain and so on, like many of these colonial wars. But when that war ended, the Royal Navy decided they didn't need as many vessels, and they dumped 2/3 of the Royal Navy's entire complement of sailors on the docks of wherever they were throughout the world. Good luck. You don't get anymore, right? And merchant shipping continued, but merchant shipping suddenly was like, there's all these unemployed sailors everywhere starving. We're going to lower our wages by half. Or treat you another way. So suddenly the whole supply and demand labor market was crap for labor at the time. And you had all these, people with a certain set of skills, right? They're naval sailors or privateers, and who they were as well, who know how to handle ships, know how to handle ships in combat, had been fighting, in the English case, the Spanish throughout the War of Spanish Succession, and invading their plantations and attacking their ships. And suddenly, they're starving on the docks of Port Royal, Jamaica, or wherever they are. And a lot of them are like, this is a drag. Let's get back to being privateers. We don't have permission anymore, but let's go do it, right?
When they did that, is the way, did I understand this right? The way it would work is that they have to get something called like a letter of marque from the royalty.
Yeah, here's the distinction. So in time of war, like during the War of Spanish Succession, the ocean's very big, and the big, and especially back then, there's no GPS, no cell phone, there's no nothing. You can't tell what's going on out there, right? And so the Navy, even if you're England or Holland, you have a big Navy, your ships can't possibly be everywhere protecting your global empire shipping everywhere. It's impossible. And so a lot of the empires during time of war would outsource some of the problem to private sector. They'd say, hey, tell you what, if you want to go out and raid the enemy's shipping, here's your permission to do it from the king. Right? The king says, here you go, here's your letter of marque. Good job. Hey, good job. You have to pay me, give me 15% head tax or whatever you bring in. But here, go on and attack enemy shipping. And so all the different empires did that. Those people would be called privateers. They were essentially legalized pirates or maritime mercenaries, really, who had been hired to go, across the enemy shipping.
This sounds like the original military-industrial complex.
Oh, well, for sure. And a time of duress when they really had to outsource everything, right?
It's war, baby. Let's go.
And the demand for that was enormous, and that created an incentive for all of these private, shareholding companies to be created. Back then, a shareholding company wasn't something permanent. You would create shares in a particular venture and go do the venture and then liquidate it. It's almost like a project. And so all kinds of private investors and merchants would get involved in this. They would get a privateering commission. You get a whole bunch of investors to go buy a vessel or rig out a vessel to be a small warship, and then you go out in the English Channel and capture a couple of French merchant ships, and you bring them into port and you liquidate their cargo and you divide the profit among the shareholders, which would include the crew, right?
That sounds so easy though to just capture a couple French ships, bring it back.
Well, it would be relatively easy given how stretched all of the navies of these empires were in time of war. Because remember, they have possessions in the Caribbean, in South America, North America, and Africa, and some of them in Asia, in the East Indies, and they're trying to protect all of that. Almost impossible. You add in the privateers, jumping with a profit motive, and they were raiding all kinds of stuff. So that's one of the things a lot of them did, and you need permission to do that. But the war ends, and suddenly all the privateering commissions are revoked. And all these people who've been making money and making a living as these private mercenaries suddenly get lost their livelihood. At the same time, the Royal Navy was dumping all their sailors. So you can see how you have this huge social problem with this mass of people with a set of skills.
Lockheed Martin time, baby. Let's go.
And no Lockheed Martin there. The Navy wasn't even maintaining the vessels they had, and so there was a lot of incentives for people to go, let's keep attacking the Spanish. Anyway, and the Spanish in the Caribbean were using pretext to continue seizing English vessels coming in out of Jamaica.
What was the basis of that? I think you got into some of it during that answer. I just want to make sure. I told you a little slow today. It was great. I'm like very interested. But what was the basis of that war? Was it a lot? Was it basically over a lot of the land they were all going to get, or was this just like more typical English, French, and Spanish don't like each other, so they reason fight?
Well, ultimately, all these colonial wars of the late 17th and early 18th century are about trying to nudge each other out of the way for control of the spoils of the emerging imperial systems they had. Right? If we attack them and get this colony, that would be great. But the War of Spanish Succession, the pretext for the war that drove them to fight each other, was literally a contest over who would succeed to one of the Habsburg thrones when Spain suddenly had an opening, the king had died.
What is that? How does that work? The Habsburgs throne?
So the Habsburgs, they had different branches, right? The Spanish royal family were Habsburg, they were Austrian Habsburgs, and your claim to the throne, if somebody died, somebody would say, hey, I'm really the next person who should be elected, or no, look at my genealogy, I'm supposed to be. And there'd be competing arguments, and often they'd be settled on the battlefield. And so this is one of those where they were rival claimants, and for various geostrategic reasons, one claimant would have allies, one allied country against another, and how much territory we can have.
I like when they was rolling the dice, I said, pop, pop, they're on my horse.
Yeah, it's
Out of there.
all those European balance power wars, right?
Dare you say something to me?
Well, you were saying right before we were on camera,
Not everybody.
sideways here, but I think this is kind of cool. You were living over in Soviet bloc, like when communism fell.
Oh, yeah.
So you
Imagine
got
those like run up in your house.
like European history and
Give me everything you got.
So, I love the integrity.
Your house is like nothing, no lock and nothing, just a barn door.
Maybe changing the
I
Soviet
tell
Union.
people all the time I believe
My
on
generation
the
grew up with the Cold War and the possibility of nuclear destruction and
I
all
love
that idea. And suddenly,
back in
you see
time,
everything
things like
going on.
One thing I was hating is like
I thought that was
China.
that would result in some kind of changes in the defining times as an 18-year-old, like I graduated in college to.
You know, a lot of people died from STDs back then.
And to happen my junior year abroad, 19,
Herpes and shit, 'cause they was drinking after each other. They didn't know nothing about diseases.
Beast of Valley to Beast, and it happened in the fall of 1989. So when I arrived, it was
Brothels.
there, it all collapsed, Berlin Wall, just
No, I'm
and as Americans, we needed visas way ahead of time to stand lines. No. Polish embassy to get your visa, then you had to go to the Czechoslovak embassy, get transit visa to take the train to Poland.
Let me go.
you had to plan everything.
I'm down.
Time to go to these other Soviet bloc countries. But just by the luck of the draw, I had to
Go for a good
these
polish.
trips. I saw a lot of those events firsthand, from the days of Ceausescu and the Belgian Revolution to being able to take these out of the wall. We were coming from the US, right? So we were coming to East Berlin, and then we had a East German transit.
I don't even know how to talk to women no more, man.
But we were arriving with all the East Germans who were going to see the West for the first time in their lives. And we were
I've been so out of the game, I don't even care. Just let me play basketball. I don't give a fuck about shit. That's how I know I'm supposed to just get back to playing this game. Let me figure out my body. Give me peace. And let me shoot.
To go to the west, we just caught up in this sort of ocean of people, just kind of flowing like sardines, being sucked down the passages. Actually, in the direction where we're supposed to go there, there's a non-Soviet bloc citizen, but it was just chaos. People were like, right, they're like, goodbye.
Like I said, I'm that person you can bring a contract to me at the court. I'll sign that, put up an argument. I'm just happy to be able to just do this. That's all I want to do, man. That's all I want to do, bro. I'm not trying to give nobody no hassle. I'm not trying to argue with nobody. I'm just trying to
amazing. It led me to stay, go back the next summer.
make some money,
Graduated,
sit down, get a couple massages every day, eat the proper way that I want. If I feel like steak a certain way, blah, blah, I want to be able to do all that and go back and bust some niggas' ass right.
Yeah, I was there for the whole thing. It was the Christian Science Monitor in San Francisco.
I'm hoping till I'm 80, bro, 90.
So I was there.
Until I'm dead, bro. Until they gotta, and by that time they're gonna be able to replace my heart anyway. So it doesn't matter. Exactly. They gonna. I'm talking about with my heart. They can replace. They do. Oh, we got the baby version. Here you go. Yeah, I'm still good. Hey, I just had the surgery yesterday. I'm up and running. Pass the ball. Yo, straight up. Yeah, they had the heart transplant last night. Passing the ball, nigga. Yeah, I'm still out here hooping. You got the plug still in his arm, bro. What the? I don't care. Yep, you need that. Bro, that's what they took away from me for 19 years, bro. I want that. I want my shit.
History of animosity and grudges and
all of it.
terrible things to one another. They've been put on ice, and so we very well fraternal socialist allies with the Hungarians and fraternal socialist
As soon as his foot feels better,
Councils of
bro.
Moscow, I mean, by the way, that was all becoming thawed out very rapidly, and yeah, there were all kinds of potential conflicts. And demagogues trying
See, I
to
can keep
use
this one planted.
situations
Oh,
to
there you
power.
go. We did
There's a guy
something just
named
now.
Vladimir Mečiar is trying to do it in Slovakia. There's Ilyushin in Romania, and then Milosevic is the one who really succeeded.
I gotta stop sleeping on my side. That's my problem.
Genocide and Horsham War in North Europe. In 1991, the post-Cold War peace was extremely short, and it was kind of the
Sleep on my right side, so my right shoulder is stuck. My neck is all fucked up. Then this side compresses.
Tropes of nationhood, how
And everything I'm doing is just resetting. But I feel like the more I'm getting stronger, the more it's not the same step as much when I had when I was stepping.
People in societies work.
So after it's just the body wants to be a certain strength.
And I guess I can tell the story because then when I went back to the US and traveled around, I started realizing that our own, the US is kind of organized, right? We have separate
Anybody else?
projects and we have some regional cultures that we have history and the pirate book and the university and the history and you know, background and understand how history plays and influences events in contemporary US life.
I'm over
So
here
yeah,
messed up.
what's happening
I'm
always,
a nice body.
what's happening now in the United States is unfortunately from close to others.
And well, if we got stuck on the Balkans, we'd be here all day. 'Cause I'm so interested in that. Like that was something. It's a quick aside. Like maybe 2.5 years ago, I saw an old time cover from the NATO bombings in '99. Yeah, I was like, what the fuck is that? And I went through it and I went, whoa! When I started researching this, and then I had my friend back over who lost 28 people in the genocide over there. He's Albanian.
But when these bitches get loose, I'll be
And
bouncing.
if you play into that history, you know about it. Yet so many of our GWAP guys are like war and terror, you know,
Dunking
Navy SEAL
on that.
Special Forces guys. You go listen to their stories. One time out of two, you're gonna have a guy say, "Yes, on my first deployment, Kosovo, '99," and they all know about it, but it's not covered here. The genocide in Bosnia and what Serbia was doing to so many people, it's not really talked about. So you know, that's definitely something I want to cover on future podcasts. That's another. You know, we're talking about some other topics you covered that are future podcasts. That might be another one right there.
Happy to do that.
But you also did the reason is kind of relevant with the balkanization was that there was an earlier point you made that I put a pin in where you talked about these guys view themselves as Robin Hoods.
Yeah.
And in looking at the story and the timing of when the golden age, 1715 to 1725, piracy was, to me, and correct me if I'm wrong here, make the wrong assumption, to me it almost seems like a prelude to the Revolutionary War, in the sense that, okay, these guys, I think they were mostly very much just criminals who wanted money, but they justify it to themselves by saying, oh, we live over here, we're getting taxed by these big royal rich people who send all their fancy little ships over here, so we're gonna fuck them up, take everything, and say, it's ours now, and it's just redistribution, we're sticking up their road. Is that, and then obviously in the Revolutionary War, it's like taxation without representation, we're not doing it. So, is that fair to say?
Well, there are links between the two. I think they're a little less direct than that. But what's important about the pirate outbreak is, remember, this is 60 years before the American Revolution. A couple, 3 generations, even more before the French Revolution in 1789. This is a time when the schools and the ideas of like freedom and democracy don't exist yet with the common people. We never know what ordinary people think about stuff because they're not the ones who read away. They didn't give us records. Nobody at the time cared what people from the station thought. They didn't record it. It's really hard to know. With this piracy outbreak, we get a really good idea of what people thought because they were well aware that in the 1710s, in the English imperial zone, that things were getting consolidated. The formation of the English upper classes to understand it, and that class society was starting to happen in this country. The whole feudalism had mutual obligations on certain people. You may be born to serve, but you get to keep farming your land, and there's others. The Lord Mayor Lord has certain obligations to the serfs. All of that is starting to fall apart in the 1700s. There's something called the enclosure movement, where a Western family might have a 100-year lease to their right to land. But as the treaties came up, suddenly in the 1700s, the landowners were like, nah, we're not going to do this.
Somebody says hi to you, I don't care if it's the first person that walks in or the last person, you gonna feel good. At one point at that time. Yeah, somebody had to, somebody saw me. I'm not invisible, you know what I'm saying? That's a horrible feeling invisible.
One giant sheet field with all the messaging. And hey, you don't need 600 people to do that. You need 7 shepherds, right? So that was suddenly happening throughout the countryside. When you hear about the Dickensian vision of the 19th century of the cities teeming with all these poor people who have no job, the surplus population, the social darkness, the surplus population, all the people being pushed off the land by this consolidation. And it created all kinds of power structures, the adoption and evolution of a separate accent that the upper class would speak that would be different from other people. That wasn't really what was going on back then. So in the 1710s, it's right in the midst of all those changes, life was getting much more precarious for ordinary people. And the people in the worst certain, if you push off the land, you go to the cities and try to somehow get a living there. If you could go do that, the thing of last resort was to go to sea as a sailor. Because that was crap, right? It was incredibly dangerous and paid poorly. Your chance of surviving the sea voyage or coming back between disease and poor diet and pirate raids and accidents was really, really low. And the time of war, you were seized by press gangs and taken over the Royal Navy. And increasingly, pirates associated with bag legs and eye patches and books for arms. That wasn't just pirates, that was sailors in general. Pirates and merchant sailors before. And merchant sailors were missing arms and legs and eyes because of the accidents on board ships.
She wouldn't think about chewing on that. Now she always started tearing it up.
The trope was being a sailor.
Turn it to the side.
No other options. So, when the pirates come along, there are already a subset of the people who are the dispossessed.
I'm going to something else. Pirates
and
of
all
time.
together on vessels, on the
Fire,
most sophisticated technology
fire.
of the time period, ocean-going ships. And these ocean-going ships,
Technology.
yeah, you need a whole bunch of people coordinated together to move the rigging, to do all this stuff. It's sort of like kind of an industrial proletariatish kind of thing at a time before the Industrial Revolution. And they're far from home, they're far from the cops. And if they get really angry, there's the possibility to just seize the vessel, right? And so, the radical.
Using kettlebell, so you probably have a kettlebell or this workout. So it really helps and transfers well into whatever sport you do. So I'm talking about Olympic weightlifting, CrossFit, or gym. Hopefully that will be useful for you. Of course, we're going to start with the warm-up. Just enjoy the rest of the video. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
This dude has been my motivation for years since I was in the Navy to get like him. To get my legs right, but I just never wanted to do the work. And now I'm finally on it.
I'm starting with the Cossack squats. This is a great movement for driving your legs for a session. It targets the hips, the adductors and abductors, and the groin. Make sure to keep both feet planted down on the floor to really get that abductor and hamstring stretch.
Yeah, abductors
Keep your
are my
upper
problem.
body as upright as possible. Next is the Spanish squats. This is my go-to exercise to strengthen my knees and help not only prep your knees forward, knee. They means the quads are
Oh, you're not even as big as you
a
used to
lot
be.
more each is always
Or I
a
just
good
don't
way.
see it the same.
He'll allow you to.
He must be on
allow
that
you to
shit
fight
back in the
body
day.
only at find to squeeze, or in a more professional terminology, contractual.
Ooh, excuse me. Poor old Jennifer Lopez. She can't keep a man.
Her and Ben finally done.
Yep. Nobody want to deal with her. Don't nobody wanna deal with your ass.
Mike Leslie to Leo Fay. Kyrie, I know the other night after game 2, you started talking a little bit about, hey, I've been in this situation before, down 0-2, and come back in a series. And I know then you walked into the locker room and told the guys, hey, we're fine. Where does that
Watch the
confidence
comeback.
come from? How do you instill that in the rest of a roster that hasn't been through this the same way that you have been?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it all year. Failure is the best teacher at times, and it can inspire you to do great things. It's our first time being in the finals as a team with this group. We understand who we're up against, the competitive level, the nature of the finals, the competitive level we have to play at. And then also the adjustments that we have to make out there on the floor, just as players. The coaching staff is doing a great job preparing us. But it's our job as players to make those adjustments and play even harder, especially when the game's getting a little out of balance, or we have a lead and we want to extend it a little bit.
There you go.
So a lot of it is just a learning curve for myself, for my teammates, and also a peace of mind that we give each other that, we want to give ourselves a chance by leaving it all out there on the floor
There you go.
and playing our best and preparing the best way we can. So that's literally been the focus since game 2 ended, was just putting our best foot forward, coming back home, feeling good, feeling familiar, and letting our game speak for itself.
Fifth row on the island, you're right.
Hey Kai, Blake Elliott, one of the fan. How confident are you in just your own personal game? Kind of getting back on track, I think even to your own standards of where you did want to be in games 1 and 2, coming back home. Where are you at mentally just in
Yo, this is a beautiful
First thing
fucking
of that is just accepting that I haven't played well.
This was serious.
Or as well as I would have liked. Being back in Boston, there's such a
only thing get better
a
is
level
being
of
in the
desire
water.
that I have inside me to play well.
Be
and,
on the water.
Be there for my teammates. So
Be right at the beach. Walk outside to the beach.
But I don't want to let that seep in or spill over into any other decisions I have to make there as a player. And continue to feed my teammates' confidence. I have been
that
down
hurt.
0-2 before.
I need my
lost a series,
pool,
won a series.
and then I
know what
want the
it takes,
beach.
And also understanding.
I want to be able to
you know,
look
how to prepare
right,
for
look
something
down. It'll
like
be
that
like a
mentally,
what do you call that? The
spiritually,
infinity pool
physically.
that's bleeding over the side.
But first,
I'm
just
talking about
respect your
YouTube,
opponent,
but
and then most importantly,
you can talk to
just
you can speak
put
to
your
it.
best
No,
foot
you
forward,
good.
go out there
Yeah,
and
you
make
good. You
consistency.
commentary.
Tim, standing on your left.
Actually, I am
He
talking to
obviously
you though.
has a bunch of guys that can throw
But,
it defensively, but
yeah, I
spent
want
a
the
lot of time with
infinity
Jaylen
pool
Brown. Let's just
with the
keep talking
beach, so I can
about
look at the
about
beach all day.
pride he's
Too.
taken in
What? Y'all
recruiting
guys
as a
just
defensive
Lord,
player. Just curious
hey,
your
they have the
perspective
free track.
watching him.
Have a little
Obviously,
court in
you
the
grow
front,
at that end.
right beside the
What do you think
pool.
of the way he's been playing this year?
No, he's been playing great.
Then the court in the
He's
pool.
been one of the most leaders on their team.
I'm just,
and,
yo, all
defensively,
day.
he's making
That's
it
all I want to do.
difficult. And that's what he's been doing all year. And for the past few
Man,
years,
you
he's really
50.
tried to
You
make his
still
mark
out here
on that
shooting?
end.
Yes,
So,
nigga. I am.
When you take pride
Yes,
in what
I
you
am.
do on the defensive end,
They
it's
might
also-
need me.
And I think he's really been separating himself on that end. And then offensively, to be able to do it on both ends of the floor is
You
even more
retired
impressive. So,
10 years ago. Yes, I
you know,
did.
this- and this is what
40
makes
something.
Miles
No,
a
get it right.
great
I
player.
was
He's
the oldest
somebody
nigga to
that,
ever
you know,
play.
that end,
Get
has
it
a lot
right.
of high energy, and it's going to make it
Still was out there
difficult, but
chopping these
Trent,
niggas. You lucky I
Jeff, fifth row on the left. Jeff Zillman.
decided I wanted to be a full-time father.
Kyrie, what did
Let
not-
my WNBA
what
girl
didn't
go
you
ahead
like
and just
about
be the
games
greatest she
1
could
and
be.
2? Was it more than missed
Or else
shots?
I was still out there chopping these
What does
niggas up,
a
for real.
much better game look like
As soon as this
for
baby
three?
about 5,
I mean, games 1 and 2.
nigga, I'm out there again, you know? Yo, I'm out, you ain't listening to me.
Mistakes that we made out there.
That's your
whether it be
problem, you hard.
turnovers,
You don't listen.
Obviously, the missed shots are going to happen. That's a basketball game.
I'm talking to you, fool.
You know, I could be a lot more fundamentally sound, technical on my shot, and not get into the paint often, where it's 3 or 4 guys.
To them, just let me
around
talk.
the
You just, whatever
pass.
you
They're
hear,
setting,
just,
specific
when I
strategies
start
against
stretching,
me,
I'm just trying to
make
get
it
off the
difficult.
pain.
We're at the highest
I need
stage of the world,
smoke
so
again
it's a small sample size we only get.
Bro, it is so
7-game
beautiful
series,
out here, bro.
potentially.
Look at this.
So,
It's like a
I
peach.
just can feel
color
the stakes
outside,
being raised up a little bit more.
or am I
Pressure is
high?
natural, makes diamonds.
Whatever, I'm happy.
But I think
I'm feeling
for
so
us as a
good,
team,
bro.
we just
Look
have to
at this.
control what we can control on that end of
gonna
being
get
able
this
to match
hook
their
right
pace,
next.
but also feel good about ourselves when we're getting stops. When we get stops, we get out of transition.
Abduction.
We're a better team. When we're
Abduction.
getting stops and giving up offensive rebounds,
Abduction.
or we're getting stops and then we're turning the ball over,
Abduction.
it hurts our chances to even be in the game.
Abducting.
So the margin of their victories haven't really displayed the full story, you know, in terms of the Celtics beating us, but
Ooh.
we just have to continue to.
Now I gotta start learning. I should have been learning the parts of the bones, the body, while I was training all this stuff too. The actual names. So then when I get in the test, I can just.
But now we got to raise it to an even higher level, and it starts with me.
Same road towards
I'm going to school for this. I'm getting my PhD in this.
The other day and now.
All of that stuff. Kinesiology, anything and everything, physical, sports science, all off the military.
That is helping you right now, and what are you sharing with your teammates from that experience?
If we were
Just
closer
sharing
to
with
the
them that
university, I
it
would
took
do it.
took a lot of resilience. It took a lot of will to win in 2016, but that's also a different team. You know, we had time to fail together. We had time to go through our trials together. You know, we lost in 2015, and a lot of guys came back in 2016, and we won. So there was an inner motivation there, and we also knew who we were going against and how well they played.
All right, I'm going to the house real quick.
So I think if you
Okay, good.
have a healthy